What is going on, you guys? Welcome to another episode of the Growth Grit Grind podcast. I'm your host, DJ Shirley. The Growth Grit Grind podcast exists in its sole purpose to lift up business owners and business leaders. We all need help. We all can learn something from each other, and that's exactly what we want to do through this podcast. We do a variation of interviewing other business owners that have seen the ups and downs, the struggles, the hilltop moments, the valley moments, and they've overcome those or they're working on overcoming those. And we can all, regardless of industry, can learn from each other. And that's why this podcast exists. As I mentioned, my name is DJ Shirley. I am the owner of Speak Loud Group. We are a digital advertising and marketing agency that specializes in helping businesses reach more of their consumers. We help them with lead gen. We help increase sales. We help with website traffic. Everything that you can possibly imagine when it comes to digital, that is what our agency does. Everything from paid ads, PPC, optimizations with your Google listing and SEO to email marketing and automation. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. Today, a topic that came up that I've seen as a theme kind of recurring is growing and scaling and really buying back some of your time. And where some of this kind of stemmed from is I'm a lifelong learner. I always want to feel like I'm learning something new and I'm looking at things from different perspectives. And I think that that is important as a business owner and as a business leader, and even as an entrepreneur or as a startup, knowing and understanding that you don't know everything. And there are other people out there that have gone through similar situations or that have navigated similar paths that you can learn from. And I was reading a book. It's by Dan Martell, and he's talking about buying back your time. And it's a book that intrigues me right now because as we're at a point where we're scaling and we're growing and we're looking to add team members and do different things and put pieces to our puzzle, it is important to know that I can't do everything. And it's important to know that I can't say yes to everything. And putting it in its place and its perspective and assigning the right team member to the right thing and ensuring our client's success ultimately guarantees our success at the end of the day. So in his book, he essentially gives an equation is that he wants you, if you're wanting to calculate how to buy back your time, and I'm referencing my notes here a little bit because I don't want to screw up his equation. I want you to be able to use it and you to be able to apply it. And if anything, you may look at it and go, okay, that's not exactly right for our business, but however, it is a starting point. It can give you an idea. So what he tells you to do is he wants you to divide your annual income. Now, there's two trains of thoughts there. Either it's your current annual income, you personally as the owner is the person at the top of the chain. You can divide your current income, or you can divide where either you plan on being by the end of this year or what your goal is. You could really do both to see where you kind of land. But what he wants you to do is divide your annual income by the number of hours you work in a year. So you're going to start there, dividing your annual income by the number of hours you work per year. So if that's 40 hours a week times 52 weeks, or if it is a lot more than that. And it may be a lot of us as business owners, it's hard to sometimes even calculate like how many hours did I actually have this week? Because sometimes it's just consistent. And a lot of us have, gotten better and try to be really good at, maybe keeping set hours. I know for me personally, I've got two kiddos that are involved in competitive volleyball, and they have practice a couple times a week. They have private lessons, and I utilize that time. Typically, the practices are closed, meaning that it is not for us to sit in and watch. It is for them to spend time with their teammates and their coaches. So I take that time to typically get caught up. Whether that, and it could be a variety of things. It could be answering emails. Most recently was building out a funnel for a client. Sat there and built out all of the landing pages, all of the automations, and sat there and did that in the afternoon. In the evening. But it saved me time the next day. And it wasn't something that I had to kick over to a team member. It was something that we were very specific. And I was the one in that meeting and I was the one that had all the notes and the kind of vision for it. So I was able to execute it. But take that into consideration. Get a reasonable number and divide your annual income by the number of hours that you work per year. And then you're going to divide that amount by 4. You're going to have a dollar amount, a large dollar amount that you are going to divide by the number of hours you work per year, and then you're going to divide that number by 4, and that is going to give you your what Dan Martell calls your buyback rate. And what that essentially means is if you can hire someone to do a task or that task for that number or less, then you should be delegating it. That's essentially the principle of what he talks about in that book. And there's a lot more to it. It's a great book, and you should absolutely go read it if kind of that's something you're navigating or may navigate in the future, is finding out what your buyback rate is as the business owner. Is that if you can take that number and you go, here's my annual income divided by hours and then divided by 4. And if I could hire someone or hire a team or maybe hire multiple people, depending on what that number is that you, to be able to continue to scale, you should be delegating that task. And tying it back to us, that's where a lot of times we fit for businesses is that they could do really one of three things. And really we have clients that fall in really three buckets. And I want to say clients, or maybe it'd be prospects, is that we have number one, we have businesses that are either just getting started or have navigated their marketing and advertising themselves. They're really in that same bucket. And they may be totally on different ends of the spectrum when it comes to revenue and profitability. They could be just getting started and really have no revenue, or they could be doing very well. It doesn't dictate one way or the other as how well they're doing, but they're in that bucket. Either they are having to do it themselves because they're just getting started. They don't have the cash flow to be able to outsource it or to hire someone, or they're just doing a really good job on their own. They've been able to do a lot of referral work. The word of mouth is spreading really good, and they don't have to put a whole lot of time and effort into social media and advertising, and they don't understand paid ads, or maybe they're doing it themselves. Maybe they do understand paid ads and they're just doing it themselves. Next category of people is kind of our bread and butter. Those are our kind of established businesses that they realize that they cannot execute their marketing and advertising at a high level on their own. They have realized, they've kind of gone to the buyback principle. They have realized that it's better for them to outsource and to pay someone else to do it. And then you kind of have your third tier of people that they may have an internal team. They may have marketing and advertising that they have hired internally. They may have a whole staff for them. Those are really three main categories. So when I look at all three of those, there's some different trains of thought there. And what I try to look at is go, okay, if they're doing it themselves, if they're in category number one, if they're doing it themselves, there's going to be a point, ideally, that they realize that I need to be working on the business, not in the business. If we're going to continue to scale eventually, and not always and not very quickly, but typically word of mouth, as your company continues to grow, word of mouth grows some, but you're going to hit a certain scale point that if you're wanting to grow by 15% or 20% or 50, or maybe you're super ambitious and you're trying to grow by 60 or 100%, you're going to realize that that can only take you so far. And if you're completely dependent on word of mouth referrals, then you could hit a point of kind of stagnation or a plateau to where you're maintaining what you did the year before, maybe even have a slight growth pattern, but you're not scaling in the direction that you would like to be scaling. And then they really reach the point where they go, do we call someone like Speak Loud Group and talk to DJ and do a consultation and find out what they could really bring to the table and what they could take off of our plate and what does that cost? Or they internalize it and they go, we're going to hire someone, maybe an intern, or we're going to hire a college student, or we're going to hire somebody that is like DJ, but doesn't own their own business. Like they want to work for a company. They don't want the weight is the best way to describe it. They don't want to own their own business. They're not their own business. They are just a marketing and advertising professional, and we could hire them. Then they start looking at the cost. And again, that's where we kind of fit in, is that they start looking at the cost, to hire a staff member that is a marketing and advertising expert that understands all facets, that understands how Google works, how Google pay-per-click works, how Facebook and Instagram ads work, how to build out funnels, how to build out automations, how to retarget, how to build custom audiences, how to list build, and then email marketing. That they understand kind of those different areas of it. Not even touching on like organic, but they understand those things. That person's salary is going to be costly, and costly is relative. I mean, for some folks, costly might mean $25,000 a year. You're not going to hire that person for $25,000 a year, but that number might be $65,000 a year. I think you're still going to find a true expert in that. I don't know if you're going to be able to hire somebody for $65,000 a year. I think you're probably looking at a much higher level individual that they know their skill set, and depending on their age and what their budget is that they need to make and to take care of theirs and their family, I think that number's probably six figures. But then they look at alternatives, and we're one of those. We're one of the alternatives. They can either go out and completely like white label, and they can look for one of these companies that they're not going to have great communication from, that is going to be kind of, we call it like set it and forget it. They're just going to launch an ad and go, cool, your ad's up. And then you're going, what are we doing? What tweaks are we making? What optimizations are we making? And you're going to be constantly worried about it. You might as well almost be doing it yourself. Or they come to a company like us where we have more of a hands-on approach that, yes, we have a team. We have specialists in those different areas. We have Facebook ad specialists. We have PPC specialists. We have SEO and even TikTok specialists that are working on the specific things. And we spent a lot of time and a lot of energy and a significant investment to find those people, to bring them and have them be a part of our team. At the end of the day, I am the train conductor. It's the best way I know how to describe it. I am watching everything at a very high level, is that I want to ensure that the objectives are met, that we are crossing the significant checkpoints when we need to check those. And I want to make sure that we're just on the right path for our clients. So I've trusted my team that day to day, that they are handling optimizations. If we see lead flow go down, if we see impression costs go up, if we see that a creative is getting stagnant, if we see that a lead form is broken or not working, we're actively fixing those things. I am the strategy behind that is that I want to ensure that my team and I, along with our client, that we're on the same page, that we understand the objective and where we're going. But I say all that to say that that's where we fall, is that we fall in a category of we're providing a solution at a much more reasonable price point than hiring someone and bringing them in your office or bringing them into your company. You don't have to pay me health insurance. You don't have to do all those different things. And we typically are going to come in at probably a third of the cost of hiring someone, if not less. So what I'm saying is if you're sitting there and you're looking at it, and I'm using marketing and advertising as just a layer, but it works across everything. It could be sales, it could be accounting, it could be office admin, it could be payroll, it could be any of those things. And you need to look at what is your time worth to you? And what are you doing to ensure that you can continue to scale your business? Is that if you stay in that lane of like complete control, and if that's what it is, if it's a control thing, then it's just moving that mindset kind of outside of that. Is even with us, when I was looking at and we made the decision to start looking for team members for our ads team specifically, because that was the path that we were going down and where we were growing, is I was fearful initially because I was like, I have to find people that can deliver the same results and that will listen to me and that will take guidance from our clients and listen to our clients' needs and ensure that we deliver those things. That was a big deal because for me, it wasn't even a control thing. It was a quality. It was a quality control thing. It wasn't so much that I needed to be at the helm of it. I knew for us to grow, I couldn't always be the one shooting a video and then editing the video and then putting the video into say a Facebook ad lead funnel and then launching it and then going and checking on it every single day, every moment of the day. I knew that for us to scale, that there would have to be team members in place, that at some point, we're going to need a videographer at some point. And we solved this problem, but at some point we need an editor, we need a team of editors. And then of course the ad side is like, we need folks that can provide that kind of daily maintenance as I'm going out and meeting new clients and, working on new business and just strategizing on the overall business itself. I need people who are executing. And I think that's what you have to look at is you have to take a moment and step back and go, okay, where are we at right now? Where were we at last year and where do we want to go next year? And think about what are the integral pieces that we need to implement and put in place. Is it a sales team? Is it a sales manager that doubles as part of the sales team and is able to grow a team because that's how we're going to execute? That's a form of marketing and advertising. There are some industries that they rely completely on their sales staff for marketing and advertising. We look at, we're in Texas and we look at the roofing and restoration space here, going door to door and solar, going door to door for those things, alarm systems and everything is still a fairly big thing here in Texas and in a lot of markets. And so they rely on their growth from their sales team and they invest in that. They invest in hiring those people and training those people and getting them out there to get the word out about the company. Others are more digital approach like us. Some of them use print. Some of them have TV ads. There's just all kinds of different types that's what they're relying on to grow their business. I would encourage that you have to take that time when we talk about like scaling. And I can only use us as a reference, is that when we're looking at going from point A to point B, it's not necessarily increasing prices. I mean, of course you could do that as you go, hey, we're wanting to increase sales this year. What's one way to do that? Well, one easy way to do that is you can increase your prices. There's some businesses that completely works for, and it accomplishes the goal very easily, is that you put a marginal increase on your services and you notify your clients that, January 1 or February 1st or whatever it is, there's going to be a 10% increase you're going to notice, and here's why, and you explain it. Now, obviously there can be fallout from that. You can absolutely have clients that go, well, not really interested in paying more for what we were, the same services that we were already getting. Now, there are a lot of people out there, a lot of business owners or a lot of clients in maybe your space that go, that's how it works. They haven't increased prices on us in 3 years and, just the way it works, things get more expensive. And if it's if it's not a huge number, then they may go, it's completely fine. But more than likely, you're going to have some percentage that you're going to have some loss, where they may decide to move on or look for a different solution. They may come back, but you don't know that for sure. So I think you weigh that. But another way, of course, is we're going to increase sales. Period. We're going to increase our customer base. We're going to grow our business. You can add additional services. You can add different legs of your business. Of course, there's multiple different ways of you being able to scale and to grow your business. But I think a lot of it starts with mindset. Is that you have to sit back and go, how? What first of all, what's the goal? We go back to that. What did we do previous year? What did we do the year before that? What are we going to do this year? What are we projections? And then what do we ideally where we want to go next year and over the next 5 years? I think you have to have an idea of what you want that to be. And I think it has to be, you use SMART goals. I think everyone probably watching this knows what SMART goals means. But you could use that to set a reasonable number that you want to ensure that your company grows to. But I think to be able to do that, the next step is the plan. Is that how are we going to do that? And I think you have to look at all of the different avenues. And it's something we looked at. When we went the ads team route of like that's what our focus was last year. Was the previous years we wanted to, I'm sorry, 2 years ago, and then last year was systems. We wanted to focus on systems. So that's when we went out and we started doing all types of research and digging into and doing trials and demos of different software and to figure out what not only fit our needs, but what fit the needs of our clients and their automations and things that we wanted to do for tracking purposes and just the overall their customers experience, when they were coming on board and we were marketing and advertising them. So, I think we have to look at those different things is we have to know where we're going. We have to look at the different avenues and you have to go pause, is it a sales team? Is it investing more in marketing and advertising? Is it us as a team working harder? What is the answer? And I think that you can run those numbers and figure out what makes the most sense for your business. And all of them are going to be different. I don't think that I think there is a right answer in your business, but I don't think I can answer that for you. I think that you have to sit back and go, what is that answer for us? Maybe it's not marketing and advertising. Look, I'm a little biased. I think good marketing and advertising can fix a lot of problems and can definitely help you scale and grow. But there are different facets of that. Like I mentioned, the sales team, growing a sales team and adding sales team members, that can grow your bottom line too. So it's not always just one answer. It's looking back and going, what is the total picture here? So I would definitely encourage you to do that equation of buying back your time and look back and go, what is my income as the business owner? Or what do I want my income to be? Whichever way you want to look at it, I would recommend looking at both. I think you got to be realistic where your numbers actually are and where you're also wanting to go. So that way you have a full picture. And then you have to do that equation and go, what should I be delegating? What should I be giving folks? Should I really be handling the payroll every single week? Should I be sitting down and taking 4 hours on a Friday or a Thursday or a Monday or whatever day that is, or 6 or 8 hours? I don't know what it may take you. And you may go, well, QuickBooks does most of it. I just have to jump in and do the kind of final pieces. But then you're the one troubleshooting it too. Someone doesn't get paid, their check doesn't go through, there's an issue in QuickBooks. You're the person. Is that the best use of your time? Creating schedules. Are you the best one to be doing that? Or can you do the buy back your time equation and go, I should probably have some kind of admin or I should have some type of assistant, even if it's part-time. Even if you look at that number and go, my number's 10 bucks. Who am I going to get for $10? There are virtual assistant options that they may not be able to handle. And they can. I don't want to demean what virtual assistants can do because there's various tiers of virtual assistants. There's some that are simple, kind of organizational, that they're going to help organize your emails. If maybe you have a CRM that needs to be cleaned up, or they're going to do simple organizing your calendar, things like that. And then there are some that go deeper and deeper. There are social media experts out there. I'm not personally a fan of like social media VAs, mainly just because that most of them are in another country. So there is a language barrier. Some of them have overcome that and they do a phenomenal job. But I also think there's just a connection. There's a connection thing there is that of course, I'm biased because I would rather you work with someone like us because of the dedication to detail and the dedication to the individual clients and just the personal connection that's going to be there. But when we talk about payroll, we talk about scheduling, we talk about building out user interface, things like that. There are VAs that you could outsource those things to that may not cost, or you could go part-time and say, look, I'm going to hire, there are people that are looking for part-time jobs. They may have a full-time job and they're looking to do part-time, especially if you can offer even remote part-time, where you find like a bookkeeper or a CPA that's looking to retire, or someone that works at a CPA's office but's looking for some work that they could do in the afternoons and evenings. Find that person. And I'm not saying you could get them for $10 an hour, but I'm saying if you multiply that and go, how many hours do I actually need them? Because it's calculating it based on a 40-hour work week. So if I only need them, 10 bucks times 10 bucks times 40 hours, 400 bucks, like, okay, could I offer 400 bucks a week when I only really need maybe a few hours of their time? Sure, the number's still there. If the same tasks are getting accomplished, then, but you have to look at it as a perspective of go, how many hours would it take me to do it? And if I can afford to pay that, a fourth of that to someone else, then I should be outsourcing it. And so I'm saying that because this podcast was created because I don't have all the answers. And me being able to interview other business owners and business leaders gives me perspective of what they've done and the hurdles that they've overcome. And I, again, consider myself a lifelong learner, is that I read books and I check out ebooks and I buy courses and I do all of these things in an effort to not only educate myself, but any information that I can help someone else take into their business. It gives me joy to be able to know that I can try to either have that information myself from my own experience, or I can take that from someone else and learn from them and then be able to say, hey, I talked to this person on my podcast. It's crazy that they were dealing with the same accounting issue that you were dealing with. And this is kind of what they did. I don't want the credit for it. I don't want the pat on the back. I am glad to be able to, because I have other people that are that for me. Because I have other people that go, I've been through that. I've navigated that. Here's what we did. May not be perfectly fitted for what you're needing to do, but this is just what we did. And it gives me, if anything, it gets those wheels turning. We had an episode where we talked about, Chat GPT and AI and some automations. And I kept reiterating that it's a spark. It's a moment that you can take something from it and it gives you direction. So even if the person providing me advice is not my solution, it may get my wheels turning because it's a different perspective. It's someone that's looking at it from the outside and from a different scenario, maybe a different business or different vertical, or maybe the same, but they're able to give me a bit of advice and help me get those wheels turning to where I need to go. What I think we do a lot of times is that unfortunately, we grow stagnant, is that and not on purpose. I think that as a business owner, we're looking at, revenue from the previous year. We're looking at projections for this year. We're watching the day to day. And then we get caught up in the cycle and circle of surviving. I don't mean to, it's not a poverty mindset of just surviving. I mean, just maintaining. And that's something that we even have on our website is we have some percentages there provided from some national research that is the percentage of investment that needs to be made into your business to maintain certain levels of growth. That if you're wanting to simply maintain what you did the year before, you still need to invest in marketing and advertising. It's just a much smaller percentage. And the reason that is because you naturally have fall off. Most companies do, maybe not everyone. We have a great retention rate. I've got some friends that I'm very close to. They have a phenomenal retention rate in their insurance business, their real estate business, different things. But naturally, especially if like your main source is word of mouth, or I'll go back to, I mentioned like restoration and contractors here in Texas, is that they're, relying on storms coming through. And what happens if they don't? If that's completely what you're relying on, what I'm getting at is we just get kind of complacent or stagnant. Again, not always intentionally. Sometimes we're sitting back going, what do I need to do? I'm taking action. I'm doing these different things, but it's more like spinning wheels. It's like the hamster wheel. We're just going. We're going, but we're not really going anywhere. I've been there numerous times as figuring out, is like, I know where I want to go, and I know I have big goals and big plans as a business owner, and I have this elaborate dream, but I get caught up in the dream side and not on the action side. And so I think we have to pause and have that moment of kind of clarity with ourselves of where am I at and where do I want to go? And I think we come back to this. We come back to an equation and we go, is it in my best interest? Knowing where I want to go and what I want to do, is it in my best interest to try to tackle it all on my own? More than likely not. You may be at a certain point where I mentioned like our kind of tiers of clients. You may be at a certain point where it only makes sense and it's only feasible for you to have to tackle it on your own. And that happens as you're building your business and starting your business. You're going to have to navigate that. But what I would recommend in that scenario is that you need blocks, of time to ensure that you accomplish all of the tasks that you need to accomplish in a day. You need to have dedicated time. If you're having to handle your marketing and advertising, you need a dedicated time for that. If you are having to handle, lead generation and outreach and customer follow-up and things like that yourself, you need dedicated time to do that. If you're wanting to have time for personal growth, you need to have a block of time that's dedicated to that. I'm not saying necessarily every single day for any of these things. I think that you could block it out and you're going to be much more efficient. Everyone's seen the, different advertisements for planners and things like, I know Monday is like a CRM and a planner. There's all types of them out there that show you the smart CEO uses this. Whatever system works for you. I live and breathe by my calendar. My calendar is and I put everything on there. Not only do I have personal items on there, but I have anything and everything from client meetings, networking opportunities, special events, shoots, whether it's myself or a team member. Like I have everything is on the calendar. And I tell people that will be setting up a meeting outside of me setting up a meeting. I'll tell them, send me a calendar invite. If it's not on my calendar, I'm not going to be there because that's just how I have built my brain to function and work. And it's funny because even going back to the simplest of things, we talk about the personal side. As I have a wife and two kiddos that have all types of things going on between choir at school, volleyball at school, special events at school, banquets at school, and then fast forward to the volleyball. We're coming into, as we sit here, it's end of January of 2024, which is insane that we're already at the end of January of a brand new year where 1 month is gone. Quarter one is already ticking down. But we have a huge personal schedule. And my wife is the keeper of that calendar. Whether it's friends' birthdays or the kids' games or tournaments, whatever it is that we have going on, she has that on her calendar. Well, up until mid last year, I just asked her, "Hey, we got anything going on this weekend?" Or, "Hey, what do we got going on?" Or she would tell me, "Hey, don't forget tonight," as I was leaving the house in the morning, "don't forget tonight we have, choir performance or whatever." And I would go at it. Well, as tech savvy as I am, it was just, I hadn't done it. And so what I finally did is I added her calendar to mine. It was a Google Calendar. It was very easy to do. It took me 5 minutes. I will tell you, it was kind of funny. My wife has her system. And when it when it synced it, she has everything kind of color coordinated. And one of the colors was green. Well, as you can see in a lot of different things, that's our company color. So naturally, my work calendar, the events are green. So I went in and changed some of her colors on my phone. Well, it changed it on hers too. And that was not good. I completely threw off her entire system, and it was not I had to go back and start correcting things. And I was like, "Can we just change this one from green to something else? That way I'm not seeing it as a work event. I'm seeing it as some type of personal event going on." And we were able to fix it. But it was just that moment of, that was such a small thing, but it was so much easier for me, instead of me having to text her or call her or take that extra minute or two out of the day to go, "Hey, got an event coming up that we're planning on doing, promo at," or whatever it may be. Maybe we have a shoot coming up and, just making sure we don't have anything on this date or this date. Instead of doing that, it's just there. It's already there. I can reference the calendar. I see her events. She doesn't see my work calendar because I'm not trying to overwhelm her. Is that she doesn't need to necessarily see every single thing I've got going on. But for me to be able to see the personal stuff, the family stuff is, it keeps me accountable to know that not only, and I'm very big on being present. I won't schedule work things over the top of family things. The only time that may be is if it is something that is absolutely, if we cannot schedule it on any other date or time, then of course, sometimes I have to make those decisions to do that. But it's very, very rare. Something that mainly the reason why we started this business a few years ago is because I wanted some of that time and some of that freedom back to be able to make that schedule around what was the most important to me, which was my family. So I'm saying all that to say, I think that as you are navigating scalability, and you have to look at that, there are certain things, and you're going to have to look at your business across the board. You're going to have to look at price points, because for you to be able to add team members, for you to be able to bring in an accountant, for you to be able to pay someone like us to handle your marketing and advertising, or maybe you want that person in a seat, is that you have to ensure that the way you set your business up from day one, it may look a little bit different as you hit a scale point. Is that if you are knocking out 80 to $100,000 a year in personal income, your business is doing a couple hundred grand, you have 50% margins, and you're just happy there. There are some people that are completely happy with that for the rest of their lives. That they're totally fine with that they were able to replace their, corporate job income, and then they were able to go out and start a business on their own, and they're surpassing or matching what they were making in their corporate job. And that may be exactly what they want to do, and they would never need another penny beyond that. I think most of us, And I could be wrong. I don't know everything for sure, but I think most of us, as we see a business starting to grow, we start thinking about possibilities and we start going, well, I was able to do 80 grand. What would that look like if I could do 100 or 120? What changes would I have to make? What would I have to do? And so I think you're going to have to just navigate that as you go, depending on where you are and where you want to go, what your end goal is I think you just have to sit back and go, what does that look like? Do we have to tweak our pricing? Do we have to tweak our structure? Do we have to tweak how and when we get paid? There's all those things that you have to think about. And a lot of times, again, scaling can solve a lot of problems. It can generate new ones, but it can solve a lot of problems. Is that you can sit back and do the numbers and go, okay, we're at 10 clients, or we service 10, homeowners a month, or whatever your business is. We have 10 folders, if you're financial planner, attorney, whatever it may be. That's my load. Like I can handle that kind of workload myself. But for me to bring in an assistant, where I'm going to need help is going to be at this number. And it could be measured by number of clients. It could be measured by revenue. It could be measured by a lot of different metrics, depending on what your business is and how you would measure that. But that's where you start is you go, okay, now let's do the math. I think, numbers don't lie, as we all know. And for you to sit back and break out a Google sheet or a calculator or however you run numbers and go, and when we have those, we have these planners that I've gone through and it has just a variety of different possibilities or options. And it shows us the calculator I built shows this is where we would need additional team members here. Is as we hit this point, it's no longer possible. In the beginning, it was no longer possible for me to do it on my own. Now, fast forwarding, it's no longer possible for us to do it with X number of team members in these different areas. And it calculates those things for us, but it also calculates kind of profitability going forward. And so something that you have to consider is in a place where you could get easily stuck is, okay, initially, it means that there's less net at the end of the day because I can't bring, if you wait until it's too late or you wait until you're already behind the eight ball and you've already started dropping balls for clients or customers, then you're in a rough spot. You've got to sit back and go, well, and then you're explaining your way out of it and you're going, look, we're really sorry. We're looking for staff member. We're overwhelmed. I think there has to be a fine balance of, when do we hire this person and bring them onto the team, whether it's a virtual assistant or someone in your office, it is an assistant for you, it is a sales manager or a sales staff or marketing and advertising or hiring someone like us. I think there's a fine line of when you do it. You don't want to do it too early because then you're going to get in the position to where you bring someone on and then you can't afford them because it didn't scale the way you thought it was going to scale. But then you also can go the other direction and you wait way too long and you drop the balls and you start having issues and problems and then you have clients dropping off. I think there has to be a fine balance of like you set that number and you go, I definitely need them. I'm just going to use an example for us. I definitely need them at 50 clients. If we had 50 clients, and this is something we went back and did. At 50 clients, I absolutely have to have them. At 30 clients, I don't really need them. I'm going to be maxed out, but I don't necessarily need them. That's probably my number. In my case, that's my number is like, if we hit 30, 32, then like that's when I really need to go ahead and have somebody in place. So realistically, depending on your growth pattern, it's like I need to be looking for somebody around 20 clients or 25 clients, depending on how fast and how quickly you bring on clients or secure business. Like I need to be looking for them then, so that way they're on board at 30. Because if at 30 I'm maxed out, what happens if another 5 clients come on over the next 30 days? Like I'm behind the eight ball, and I need that person in place, and I need them not only in place but staffed up, trained up, ready to go in their position, not trying to find somebody, let alone just starting someone, because I'm going to run into problems is that I'm still going to be picking up some of that weight that now I don't have space for. So I'm going to wind up dropping balls that way too. So I think that just navigating, and again, everybody's business is a little bit different, but the principles still apply, is that you have to be prepared for the growth and the scalability. Is like you have to know where you're going first of all, and that goes back to running those numbers of what you did, what you're going to do, and what your plans are for the next 1 to 5 years, and knowing reasonably where that point's going to be. Is that by Q2 we're probably going to be, let's say in your business you're going to be like, if your number's 25, by Q3, by Q2 we're going to be at that number. So really in Q1, I need to be either hiring a recruiter or making some postings and starting to interview some folks and talking to them to have them prepared to coming into Q2, they're on board. And you have to, again, it's a balance, is that you have to find that fine line of what's going to make sense in your business, what is not going to overwhelm your cash flow, but what is also going to set you up for the most success. And it's a scary thing because you're sitting back going, I don't want to make the wrong decision. The wrong decision could be too early. And I'm going to have a cash flow problem because if the clients don't keep coming on like they're supposed to, but that's part of business. Part of business is calculated risk. And I can't stress calculated enough, is that you have to be smart with what you're doing. You have to make calculated decisions as a business owner. But I think you can do that most appropriately by just planning and thinking ahead. And something that I've seen for sure out of entrepreneurs and business owners is we're pretty resilient. Is that, let's say maybe you did make that decision a little bit early, maybe it puts a little constraint on the cash flow initially, but we're pretty resilient. What does that mean I have to do? It means I have to secure a couple of clients a little faster than I originally anticipated. And whatever that looks like, it could be a promo that you run, it could be a referral program that you launch, it could be anything, to secure those next few clients where you go, "Phew, we're good, we're in the clear, everything's good, now we're growing." And then you know what your next scale point is. You know, with that new person that you brought in, whatever their role is, that with them in place, you can go from 25 to 35. Well, then that means at 30, you're looking for the next piece. So it's a constant moving, evolving. A business is a living, breathing thing. It is a child. It is a child that you have to pay attention to. You have to watch for its needs and its wants, and you have to know the direction it's going in, and you have to watch out for it. And so I stress all that to say, and I think it starts with us. It starts with the business owners, is that we have to take the time for self-development. We have to take the time for knowledge-based growing. That could be, I don't want to say just watching this podcast, because I don't think you're going to, just change and revolutionize your business by watching this podcast. But I think that if you collectively are reading books and listening to other people that have different insights or perspectives, you're growing. You're growing as a person. You're growing as a business owner. But we have to have those. We have to have those moments to where we dedicate that time ourselves. But then we're also, again, going back to our growth pattern of knowing where we're going and where we want to go, and running those types of numbers to where, are you going to be stuck in a high paying job or growing a business? And that's where that's the entrepreneur teeter totter, is that in the beginning, you're just working. Like, you've got a 60, 70, 80 hour a week job that you traded a 40-hour a week job for probably less money in the beginning, but the dream and the vision and the possibilities and the flexibility and all the things that we all chose that path for. But then it's moving that forward, and it's going, okay, now we've seen some measure of success, and now we've seen a little bit more measure of success. And it goes back to that. I love what he wrote about buying your time back, is that you're going to hit that point to where you go, I can't do this all on my own. I don't need to do this all on my own. I'm going to screw up if I keep trying to do it all on my own. But what's my point? Pause there. That's where it starts. When you start to see that your calendar's full and your work week is gone and you're at capacity, or getting there where you're reaching capacity, it's time to have that conversation with yourself. It's time to sit back and go, what can I do to alleviate some of this? Sometimes it's as simple as a VA. Sometimes it's as simple as bringing a spouse in, or a friend or a family member or a high school student that can help you for a couple hours a week. Sometimes it's a little more elaborate. It's hiring someone like us to take that off of your plate, because you want to continue to grow. You need to continue to grow, because growth brings the rest of your scale plans. It brings in you hiring 3 to 5 more people because you have the revenue to do it. It takes you from point A to point B. It could be something extremely massive, where you're having to invest in software and systems and an office space and a bigger office space. Maybe you're having to build a building. There's so many variables, and there's so many different lanes that people are in, that I can't possibly give you the exact answer to your solution. But what I hope to do is to give you food for thought, is that you need to understand what your growth pattern is. You need to have clear vision and know where you're wanting to go, and then be able to make some decisions based on it. Because at the end of the day, when you set it in place, it is on you. It is on you. If you go, we're at this number and I want to go to this number, so then the plan is by Q2, we're going to hit this client goal. That means I need to have someone on board that's going to help me with payroll and these different things. Or we're hiring DJ and Speak Loud Group to handle our marketing in Q3, because that's where it's going to take us. From month 1, going to Q2, going to Q3. Q2, you're supposed to hire somebody. Q3, you're supposed to contract with us. To hit those goals and measurables, to ensure that your growth is going the direction that you want it to go, it's on you. You have to execute. You have to bring on new clients. You have to have new customers. You have to sign new deals. If you don't, you get to Q3 and you look back at your numbers and you go, good news is we're not going to make less money this year. Bad news is we're gonna make the same amount that we made last year and we didn't reach our goals because the planning side fell through. And don't get me wrong, I think that some people can plan effectively and then something just doesn't work. And I think that's part of it. That's part of us navigating as well, is that pivoting and making that decision. But I think it's got to be done in a reasonable amount of time. That's why you can't set goals and then not revisit them until month 6. You got to set goals and revisit them depending on micro goals. You're probably revisiting those weekly. Larger goals, you're probably visiting those once a month. And bigger goals, you're definitely looking at them quarter over quarter. You may have some biannual goals you need to look at. You have some annual goals you want to look at. But to get to those goals, it's the micro things that have to happen first. It's the dedicated time to personal growth, dedicated time to outreach, dedicated time to networking. It's those different pieces of the puzzle that ultimately lead to the monthly goals, then the quarterly goals, the biannual goals, then the annual goal. And they all tie together. So I hope this was encouraging. It's helpful for me sometimes when I get on these, and especially when I don't have a guest, this particular week, I'm thinking about things that are going on in our business. I'm thinking about things that I'm hearing from the business community around me personally, locally. And then I also think about just things I see, whether it's on our clips that we post on TikTok or it's on the videos on YouTube or somewhere else it's hosted. We even have them on the audio platform. So we have stuff over there as well. So I try to take from what I'm hearing and seeing, whether it's with us personal, because I know if we're dealing with it, we're not the only ones. There are other people out there that are going through the same hurdles, struggles, uphill battles, whatever you want to call them in business, in that entrepreneur life. So I hope that this was helpful. And that's just what I want to leave you with, is that plan for success. Think your goals out. Where were you at? Where do you want to go? And then start navigating that path of, what does that look like? And an easy way to do that is to start backtracking. If you know how much money you made at 120K in sales, and you know how much money you made at 250K in sales and 500 and 5 million, you know what that was. Do that equation. Figure out, divide that amount of money times your work hours in the week or by the year, and then divide that by 4 and look at that and go, does it make sense? If I can hire, you may see a number that's crazy and you may be like, that seems a little steep. Is it going to mean that your revenue personally, your income personally is going to decrease some? Sure. But you're thinking about the big picture. And I know as an entrepreneur and as a business leader, you're thinking about the big picture, is that it's not about seeing my income drop down, right away, because now I've got 50 grand a year dedicated to this person I just hired. It's not 50 grand at once, 50 grand over the year. Then the goal is by Q3, you're back to where you were supposed to be. Ideally, you're higher. But then it's the scalability factor going into year 2. You have that person on board. You made the same amount of money or you made more, but you were able to do less and focus more on the business and secure more business. So going into Q1 of the next year, you're killing it. And you're already looking at what your next scale growth is. And that's hiring the second, third person, fourth person, fifth person, building out a team, building out a system, building out a user interface. Like, you're tackling the next step. So that's what I leave you with. Think forward, plan, execute on the plan, measure the plan, and then do this. Buy back some of your time. That's the easiest equation that you could use to continue to scale your business and grow it in a healthy way. Appreciate you guys, every single one of you, that whether you're watching on YouTube, you're over on TikTok checking out the clips, you're listening to the audio version. I just want to say we appreciate you guys. This is a fun thing that we have started doing these weekly podcasts, and I am thoroughly enjoying it. I love being able to talk to other people and get a guest in here. We're building out a system to secure more and more guests. But life happens, business happens. We had a guest scheduled today, and they had kind of, I don't want to call it a fallout, but they had things that popped up in their business that they had to go take care of and had to go handle. And so we pivoted. We took it a different direction. So just want to encourage you guys, if you're on any of those other platforms, if you're watching clips on TikTok, I want to encourage you to go hop over to YouTube, watch the full episode. If you took a nugget that's over on TikTok, there may be more in the episode or other episodes that you may be able to take and continue to grow and scale your business using those tips and tricks. So watch the full episode. I would also, hey, if you're not subscribed, subscribe, like, comment, do all the things that we would hope that you would do to help us. At the end of the day, we want this to help as many business owners and entrepreneurs as possible. This is our give back. This is our thing, and we're really enjoying it. Lastly, if you're interested in being on the podcast, we have a couple of parameters on business size and things like that, because we want to ensure that we're providing as much value as we can. But if you're interested in that and you want to reach out to us, drop a comment on one of the videos wherever you're seeing it at. Give us some information so that way we can reach out to you, and we'll be happy to reach out to you and see about getting you on. So again, thank you guys for watching. See you next time.